While carrying out my leadership programs, one thing which always struck me was the question which used to come at the end is that who is going to develop me? What are the options which are available for me to develop? So the big question before that is that who is responsible for developing yourself? Very often I have seen that um, people end up saying that my um, my boss is responsible for developing me, or the HR and the leadership team is responsible for developing me, the leadership and talent management team is responsible for developing me, or some even say that the mentor or the coach assigned is responsible for developing me. I've seen that such people go nowhere because they fundamentally are not taking the ownership of development, because the ownership of development has to rest with you yourself. Now this is a very difficult proposition for people to accept, because most of them I have seen is that they say that here are the leadership competencies, here are the leadership behaviors, here is a 360, and here is my rating. So if this is the behavior, this is the competency, this is the 360, so therefore I am developed or I am not developed, and it's the role of HR which is defining all this to develop me. Such people are fundamentally missing out one point. That is, how do you develop? There are two aspects to this whole development process. One is the personal aspect, and the one is the organizational aspect. They're very closely linked. Personal aspect means we all know the classical iceberg model that we have talked about. Only the tip which is above the water, that's seen to be, that's what is observed, and which is our behavior. Our behavior is a consequence of our experiences over the years that we have had. Now these can be positive, negative, normally a bouquet of all of these. Personal, some related to career. Some people have lost their jobs, that gives them a negative experience. Some people have been able to be extremely successful, that gives up experience. These experiences give rise to beliefs, the personal beliefs, and these personal beliefs translate into thoughts, positive, negative, bias, perceptions. And all of these is not visible, but what is only visible is the behavior and the action that is displayed. So when the behavior and the action that is displayed is observed, we kind of others kind of start taking note on it, and the behavior of an individual or the action that an individual takes in a particular environment is a result of this conditioning that the individual has had. How can the person change his behavior to a positive behavior which is acceptable and which is the right behavior to display? The person can't change his experiences, but the person can change his beliefs. So fundamentally the change starts from here when a person consciously starts changing his beliefs and in the process develops. For example, a person might feel, an individual I had interacted with felt very badly about anyone who would drink alcohol. Now he had a very negative feeling about such people, including his boss and several of his colleagues who used to drink alcohol, and he had particular fondness of one colleague who never drank alcohol. Reason? It was a very personal one behind that, because his grandfather was an alcoholic, and when grandfather literally brought the family to the point of collapse because of his alcoholic behavior, so he squandered the family wealth, and the family had to go through a lot of problems because of that. Now that experience of the individual as a child changed into a very strong belief which influenced his thoughts and his behaviors. Now one need not start liking alcoholics or something, but yes, he can change his behavior. What I told him is to change his behavior from negative to at least neutral. So the individual is working on it. Has he been able to accomplish that? I don't know. I have not been in touch with him for quite some time. But that is how person grows, develops at the personal level. This is how he develops, by changing his beliefs. Now life forces you to change your beliefs. When you have your child commenting on your behavior, or your spouse telling you to do something which you perhaps would not have earlier done. Step by step you start changing your belief and you develop. In the organizational context, the result is the same. The development often takes the form of job rotation. The development often takes the form of a executive education program. The development often takes the form of a mentor or coach assigned. The development can often take the form of a new responsibility. But the thing is that the development is the responsibility of the individual, and the individual must develop and seek new areas to learn. When the individual is not keen on learning, what happens is that in spite of all these possible exposures, we will see the person demonstrate the same behavior. I have seen people who have gone through some of the choicest of the programs in the world, but they still don't change and demonstrate the same behavior as their boss or their supervisor would like. It's got nothing to do with development, therefore. So such an individual has not really developed over time. But if an individual who wants to develop himself can simply read books, can simply go through the lives of great men, great leaders, and develop. So is development expensive? Well, it's not. For the individual who understands the development process and understands that development is his own responsibility, it's not the responsibility of someone else, it is not an expensive process. But for someone who does not understand and shoulder his own responsibility for developing himself, the process can be very futile. So should you try to develop your subordinates? Should you try to develop your child? Should you try to develop your spend effort developing your spouse? Yes, but before that, you must try to develop yourself. If you are developing yourself first, you will automatically start making a change in others. Understand that behavior is demonstrated. It is not what you think the way you behave. It is the way others think you behave. So therefore, a simple 360 can go a long way. But for someone who doesn't want to change himself, a long intervention might not also be able to change his paradigms.